A new report from Feed Ontario reveals that food bank use is at a record high and centres are struggling to keep up. The report says 40% of food banks are reducing the amount of food they provide with fewer donations and resources. But as Julie Sharp tells us, that's not the case for a food bank in Beamsville.
Shannon Clarke has been a volunteer at many food banks stretching from Toronto to St. Catharines. But now he says he's in need.
It becomes, do I pay my internet bill or eat food? Very difficult situation. Food banks helped out in that situation.
He says he and his roommates visit food banks quite often.
There's like 5 of us here, and several of us go 2 times a month at least, sometimes several times a week, depending on the donations that they've given.
According to Feed Ontario's 2024 Hunger Report released today, 40% of food banks are cutting back on wraparound supports.
So things like, rent and utility subsidy, home delivery programs, employment services, all of these things are being pulled back on so that food banks can keep the lights on, the doors open, and provide their core services.
But that's not the case for Community Care of West Niagara in West Beamsville.
And although the number of people coming in for service is increasing and the number of visits required in order to meet their basic day-to-day needs has also increased, Community Care of West Niagara has not at this time had to decrease any of its service provisions.
The report outlines that one of the primary driving forces behind the use of food banks is inadequate job opportunities. The executive director here at Community Care of West Niagara told me that most people who do come are employed. However, they're not making enough money to meet their basic needs.
Most of them are employed, and most of them have more than one job, and that they need some help bridging a gap. Unfortunately, the gap is getting wider, so we have to lean in and be there for them.
According to Feed Ontario, more than 1 million unique individuals accessed a food bank in Ontario between April 2023 and March 2024. That's up 86% since 2019 and 2020. Also, 2 in 5 visitors had never accessed a food bank before, an increase of 43% since 2019 to 2020. Stewart says there are ways to help mitigate this issue.
So firstly, social assistance programs, making sure our social programs actually provide the support they are intended. Affordable and accessible housing is key. Right now, the average price of a 1-bedroom in the province means someone has to work 2.5 full-time minimum wage jobs just to cover rent. And then finally, really focus on unemployment.
As we approach holiday season, Feed Ontario says it expects to continue to see a decline in donations. Julie Sharp, CHCH News, Beamsville.